Hello everyone, welcome back to a new little video. And recently I posted a little SoundCloud snippet on my Facebook wall, and basically about some legato strings and asking what is it, what's going on here. And I basically did a little bit of experimenting because I always, I can't stop experimenting on my orchestral template. So I was just fooling around with string legato stuff. I should say stuff because I don't want to reveal too much. Okay, so just let's see what's going on here. Ta-da, that's it. So let's just listen to this first and then go through the details. Okay, that's it. And well, a lot of it should be obvious by now, because you probably can see, noticed some of these libraries already. Yeah, let's just start with the cellos. Okay, as I said, some is obvious. A lot of you actually guessed what's going on in here, and a lot of you said cinematic studio strings, which is right. But it's just a part of it, so it's not really because, not really the only library. And it was funny because a lot of people commented, yeah, it's kind of cinematic studio strings, but not really. But I hear something else, but I can't really figure it out. So, okay, I said, let's just get into what's going on here. So basically this is cinematic studio strings. It's part of this whole thing. It's basically just the simple legato setup, standard mode, just the mixed microphones. I blended off everything just in case you didn't know that you can hold the Alt key and unload the other articulations you don't need. So just in case you don't have a lot of memory. And I really don't like key switches. You probably heard that before from me, but I just tend to have it all on one track and on different tracks. And so I just unloaded all the additional articulations in order to have different tracks, instrument tracks, and I loaded all these separately. So, but that's another story. So basically that's it, what's going on here. Then we have Soaring Strings, which is also a really great library. And what we can do is just listen to the whole example with just one library used. So I would have to take off this. I just say this for now because I don't want to. Yeah, and let's just, what the heck, just let's solo these. Actually, it doesn't work. It cuts my voice. So I'm sorry about that. Let's just do it like this. And let's just hear it with cinematic studio strings. Oh, before we start, I should mention something. There's a little bit of processing going on, but we talk about that later. Okay, so that would be just cinematic studio strings. Also, I'm sorry about having a little bit of glitches here. I think I blame it on the video transmission recording, whatever. I don't have these when just working, so might be the Camtasia stuff here going on. Well, you know, the thing is, compared to my to when having all libraries activated, it sounds a little bit more weak, but just to defend each library, it's not sounding that weak, because if you would turn up the volume of each library, it would, you know, it would sound different. It would sound a little bit fuller and richer. But by using all these libraries, of course, you have to balance the volume a little bit so it doesn't, you know, so basically it melts all these libraries together. And if there would be just something sting out, it, of course, I mean, makes sense, right? So let's just play Soaring Strings. Okay. Okay, and last but not least, just let's play it back with this weird, funny TCR stuff. Okay, so what is going on with this little TCR thing? So basically TCR is just the abbreviation for my former studio name, the Cellar Room. So let's just reveal what's going on, and you would be surprised. There's not much, you know, surprise. It's not a custom library. I didn't record anything. I didn't have the chance to go to Abbey Road or any other studio and record my own private library. It's basically a mix of these. I think it differs from each section, but as for the cellos, let's just play a little bit of these. So you can see it already. What's going on here is basically I was using agitato, the normal legato cellos, and then the sordino cellos. So, and last but not least, there is the Cinematic Studio Strings 2, the previous string library of Alex Wallbank, who did the Cinematic Studio Strings. Let's just listen to these alone. So basically what's going on here is the normal, let's say normal agitato legato strings, and then we have the sordino stuff. So, and to be honest, I just like to mix these up because you get a lot of smoothiness and silkiness from the sordino stuff, and just, you know, the juicy and typical strings sound from the normal strings. You know, basically, yeah, stupid, but you know, just if you mix these up, let's mute these, it sounds like this. Also, I have a long reverb tail going on, but we get to that later. And just listen to the cinematic strings. I just confuse up names. Cinematic strings to. Okay, and listen to all of these. Yeah, so you may ask, why the overkill? Why using, I mean, you've seen right. I was just basically using for the cellos 3 libraries layering inside one contact instance, just to make sure these are all instrument tracks. So there's no rack instruments or something going on, because it makes things so much easier. I mentioned it in the previous tutorial, why I'm using instrument tracks, and I just said, yeah, just get over it. I'm using instrument tracks, but there's actually so many reasons. One thing I talked about before, like the activating tracks thing, but also automation. You know, if you just want to automate something, bam, just expand this little thing, go to right and volume or whatever, and or effects. It's just there. I mean, if you would use rack instruments and MIDI tracks, you would also have to expand or pick the contact outputs from the little folder. So you basically have like it did take so long, you know. So you have your usual MIDI tracks, and then you have your instrument outputs. So you have to expand these first, find these, and then go to the little automation expanding arrow here, and start doing the automation there. But it's getting confusing. If you have a huge template with like 200 or 300 or even more, or just less tracks, you lose oversight really quickly. And it's pretty cool to have the automation right beneath the track you're working on. Okay, so that's this for it. And okay, so also let's just hear all together again. And before, you may think, well, they sound different from what they sound on my machine. You may think that, but just to reveal that, I just put. So what did I do for the different sections? Let's play them back all together. So yeah, basically what I asked before, why the overkill? Why using, 3 libraries here, then Cinematic Studio Strings and Soaring Strings? So why use 5 libraries together? The simple reason is I never ever experienced a customer or a client saying these cellos sound too massive. I mean, even on romantic, little more calm lines and arrangements. That's why I picked something like this, because it's just like a romantic little smooth thingy and nothing epic. But it doesn't sound, it sounds juicy. I always say juicy because that's like the term I really like. It sounds juicy. It sounds warm and silky and all these. I just like the sound of this. And of course you could tweak one library, but then there is one very important thing which is going on when you layer libraries. Each library behaves different, even though they like edited in the same way. You have you basically have the same articulation all the time. It's all Legato libraries, but each of them behaves differently. It's like having different singers, from a choir. You have like different sopranos, and they all have different vowels. They have a different volume of the mouth and everything. So each voice sounds different, but they all sing the same note. But in the end, you get like this full juicy sound of having like a lot of people singing. And even though it's overkill in terms of the size, because it's like probably like 50 cellos or something, I mean, you really don't hear it. I mean, some orchestral library nerd may go, yeah, just I hear it, it's too many libraries. But I just always tend to think, okay, I'm not making music for you guys, I make music for my customers. So I don't care. If you think it's too much, then it's too much for you, then don't watch this video. But it's just, I just felt sharing this because by combining all these different characters of the libraries, you get something unique going on. You don't have the same legato thing, the same character of each library going on all the time, but you have them all together. And I also spiced up these lines with some random stuff going on here. You can see that I just opened the MIDI modifiers, and you can see that I varied the position and I put it pretty extreme, maybe too extreme for this one, but just to show you what's going on here, there is a minimum and a maximum point. As far as I understood it, it kind of brings the starting point from the actual event, from the MIDI event here, and puts it a little bit to the front or to the back on a random value. Okay, so each, even though they are all copied, if you just check them, they are exactly lining up. Each of them is copied, exactly copied. So disregarding this, there is always a random thing going on, and therefore each legato interval will comes in, and even also even each starting point from the sample itself and ending will start and end and how do you say, doing a legato transition in a different way. It's always different. You would hear it better if it would be staccato samples. You would never put like that high values, maybe just like 10 or 8. And then you can hear some sort of flam going on in the percussion samples. But on this example, I wanted to put a little bit more extreme to really hear, to really create some random thing, some human thing going on in these libraries, because libraries are always only that human how we process or work with them. So if you put in these random things, it adds a little bit of human character. Okay, so what was else going on? Okay, so you may think that these samples all sound different than what you have at home. So if you just listen to the, let me solo the voice, listen to just the cellos. And so on. So what's going on here? First thing I did was I put some slate stuff in here, and I just basically used the VCC channel to add some console feeling. It's really subtle, but there's just something going on. It gets more obvious when I'm, oh, it's already turned on. Just very subtle, but I just use it, the combination, the channel, to add some little bit of analog console-ish feeling, and the FG116, the compressor, not really to compress the strings, but to bring out each details of all the sounds, because there are little things in the recording going on, some kind of bone noise or some kind of, something the bow, like touching the fretboard or whatever, some stuff going on, some little details and errors, and I just want to bring them up. I mean, in a way, I work against what everyone is trying to do to make them as clean as possible, but I just like to bring in as much human factor and bring out all the errors and the little noises, because this makes for me, this brings back some humanity for string sample libraries, because in the end they are just, libraries. I mean, it's not real. Get over with. Yeah, just the honest, it's the truth. I mean, it's not human, it's just robotish, and we just have to make it as human as possible. So I like to bring out all these little details here. So what I did next was I'm adding a little bit of a cue here. And I think I watched this video from a little video tutorial from Tim Starnes, actually, as far as I remember. And he was talking about getting, the sound right, and in terms of distance, and not really have the typical sample library sound direct into your face, but bring the players a little bit back. So to create this feeling of a little bit of distance, because when, as we all know, when an instrument is very close, you hear the high frequencies much better than when the instrument is further away. So you may think it sounds a little bit more clear when I turn off the equalizer. But if you hear it all in combination with everything going on, you get a little bit more feeling of warmth, and it's not like into your face like this. So that's basically what I did for everything. And also everything is then being, let me just, I just interrupt my talk all the time, because I can't really see where the line is, because my monitor is a little bit bigger than the actual screen I'm recording. So I hope it makes sense what I'm showing here. This is basically what's going on in the mixer. As you can see, let me just play this back. So you can see the strings are routed to the string bus. And I additionally have a little bit of EQ going on here. It just notches out a little bit of the 700, because I decide that from track to track, because I think you have to treat each track individual. So you just have to make sure what's going on in the end. You can't follow scheme A all the time, plan A all the time. You can just put, like these little things to strings just to, to get rid of specific frequencies, as I did here with the cellos, just to notch out a little bit of this, or actually a lot of this area from 1 to 5 with a peak at 2.7. You can do that, of course, all the time if you just like the sound, but then you have to know what's going on in the whole track you're working on. And just for this example, I put in another EQ, which notches just out a little bit of the 700. You could hear it when I just... It's just very subtle, It's basically this frequency. It's like a little bit of, more going on, and I just don't like this for this track, so I just turned it off. Okay, so that's basically everything for these things. Let me just hop right into the the mastering chain. So basically I have, the first thing I have is this little, let me just, okay, a little EQ again, which gets rid of everything below 30 Hertz. I just have this in every track just to avoid deep rumblings and, you know, sub basses collapsing, whatever. The next thing is I have this little Omega transformer going on by Kush Audio. And what it does, it's basically just turned on. There's nothing going on, no intensity, nothing. It's just turned on. And let me just check something. Okay. Thought something is still bypassed here, but it's not the case. Okay. It just, you know, it's just on. If I would turn it on, so it just adds a little bit of additional warmth, and basically doesn't do much. You know, I like to really get going a lot of plugins which actually do not much, but each of them, the same goes for the layering of the libraries, each of them adds a little bit of character to the whole track. So, you know, like it's always like 1% to 5% going on from one plugin. And if you use like 5 or 3 or 10 plugins doing something, it adds up. And I think the character of each thing for just a little amount does more to me than just using one plugin and very extreme. So what's going on else? The next thing is I have this virtual mix bus. So everything else on the string channels was just virtual mix channel. Okay, the virtual channel, and this is the virtual mix bus. So it just adds a little bit more of put it to extreme. Here again, but just a little bit of it. And finally some air EQ. Just bring out a little bit, yeah, as the EQ says for itself, a little bit of air. And the next thing going to happen is a little bit of the pusher, the Waves Infected Mushroom pusher. And, you know, just for quick layout template mastering and avoiding latency, huge latency from limiters, I just use it to bring in some, you know, high character. They have something here, it's called magic. I mean, basically it's all a little bit of a combination of harmonic distortion, equalizing, compressing, limiting, specific EQ curves and stuff going on. It's just packed into one little plugin, and it's pretty helpful if you just quickly have to master something. You just pull it out and okay, so basically it's doing nothing else than a little bit of everything, like stereo imaging, a little bit of high character, a little bit of this mid stuff going on, then a little bit of body, which is probably like lower frequencies. I just left for the, actually I just a little bit dialed in of this low frequency stuff and set the pusher, which is basically just a limiter, kind of compression limiter, mix up, whatever, I don't know. It just sounds okay for doing a little bit of preview stuff. And last but not least, my beloved Inflator. Okay, just setting it to extremes again. It's just there to blow everything up just a little bit more. And the most important thing to me is always using it as the last plugin behind the limiter. That's very important to me. I mean, you can use it on a drum channel or on a guitar channel, vocal channel, whatever. But the most effective use for me is to put it after the limiter, because the limiter makes sure the track is, you know, pumped up and brought to volume, but the Oxford Inflator just adds a little bit of just, you know, a little bit of more stuff. It's basically a harmonic exciter, a harmonic distortion exciter. So basically what it does, it brings out a little bit of more character, but again, pretty subtle use. So not really like pushing it to extremes. Okay, so that's it for the technical stuff. I think we should just take some more time and check on what's going on the basses. So basically, that's clear. The cinematic studio strings always happening on every section. The basses, the violas, violins 1 and 2, and for my custom stuff, you know, basically it's custom stuff. You can call it custom because it's just mixed up. But basically it's not, but it's always good to say I'm using custom stuff. Yeah. So what's going on here? Again, cinematic strings 2, the basses. And I mixed this up with the Sordino, the Agitato Sordino legato basses again. So let's just hear these. Both together. And also the same for the processing going on. So a little bit again of the virtual channel and the compressor, and a little bit of, I don't know what I said here, like again, something around 1.8. Just to get rid of that sharp little treble stuff. Okay, and for we already talked about the cellos, basically again the agitato stuff, the normal legato stuff, and the sordinos, and cinematic strings 2. For the violas, I use the same, basically violas from cinematic studio strings 2, and the agitato sordino and the normal legato stuff. So listen to each of these. And all of them together. And mixed all of them. And the same, waiting for autosave, and the same going on here. Wait, that's violins. Same going on here, a little bit of virtual channel. And a little bit of EQ to just get rid of the and the same for the, so what's going on here? That's basically the violins 2 setup. It's Berlin strings, actually. Just hear that each. And the agitato, I should really learn it. So that's really a nice difference. So you hear it really like a broad, little bit of treble-ish sound. And then you have a really clear and distinct and transparent sound from the agitato stuff. And if you mix it up both, and mixing it up again with the cinematic studio strings and the soaring string stuff. And the same going on here, just using a little bit of EQ. That's actually a lot. But it's funny, actually. Sometimes I think, wow, it sounds much better without EQ. But when you just hear it all together, it sounds very smooth and silky. And as I said before, I really like the mix of all these libraries, because each of these add something unique to the music. And this is basically the most important thing to me, to have my music sound individual. I don't want anyone to hear, I mean, it basically doesn't happen, but, and as I said before, I make music for clients and customers, and not really for other composers. But I don't want anyone to listen to my stuff and say, yeah, that's Soaring Strings, or yeah, he used, I just want, it's like a personal thing, you know. I don't have to, you know, demonstrate or, you know, put myself in the spotlight or saying, hey, look at me, I'm so great, what did I do here? But it's not that, but it's basically just, I want to have people say, what did he do there? You know, what is happening? What is going on here with the violins? It doesn't sound like this library, and it's not obvious. So I'm curious what's going on here. So that's basically like a little personal thing. For the violins, for the first violins, and the same going on here with a little bit of just it's funny, I actually put the drive to, is it 8? Is it 11? It's 11, kind of. It's 18 actually, but I like what it's doing, you know? So I didn't want to have it subtle. I just put it up all the way. And again, some EQ here. That's how they sound without EQ. And this is what I don't like when it comes to high high notes created with sample libraries. You know, they always sound nee. So that's what I basically just have to turn off. So that's what I basically what I just wanted to say. So I put in this equalizer to not make it like to get this edgy sound when the strings are high, because when you hear a lot of octaved melodies going on with strings, and with sample libraries created with sample libraries, they tend to sound really really meaty-ish kind of. But when you do it like this, it sounds a little bit more real, at least for me. So I just listen to the violins here. I could also go and just create a little bit, just like a little line, trying to demonstrate the so if I would get rid of the EQ now, sorry, I had it off for this one, sorry, but turn off the EQ and turn it on. Too fast. So it's turned off now. And turn it on. So that's basically what's going on here. And not much, but a lot of processing going on and a lot of layering. And basically that's the whole thing. I mean, it takes a bit. It's not just writing a line for each ensemble and just put it to the sequencer. You know, there's a little bit of work going on. So doing these random things, you could even make it better and play it manually, you know, each of these tracks. But I think it's if you just want to create something really quick, and you just have to not vary too much, but just basically if you have like real players, they all playing it for notes, so nobody's like sitting there and just doing its own thing. So it's basically, I don't know what's better, play it manually each of these sections, or just play it once and then basically it's all copied, you know, like this. And of course it would help to, you could go even deeper, you know, as I said, play it manually, but also take care of the modulation, of the dynamics manually. So these are all things you could I mean, of course, you could spend like a year with this little thing, you know, just optimizing stuff or doing it like this. But of course, we're all working and have other things to do also, you know, so you don't have to put it to extremes all the time. So, but basically that's, I think, a good combination of working with different libraries, just layering them, putting them all together, but also adding these random things, position things, and doing a lot of the process stuff, like going with EQs and analog stuff, especially because it always adds warmth to the samples and brings back a little bit, hopefully brings back, or at least it does for me, of human character for these libraries. Okay, there's actually one little thing which I almost forgot, and it's probably one of the most important things, the reverb. Okay, so here we go. That's the reverb I used. It's just a random hall, the large hall 3, and you can see the parameters here. There's a lot of, you know, it's fairly wet, but let's turn reverb off. And on. Off. And on. And off again. And on. So it's actually a lot of reverbs, like almost 3 seconds. It's a lot in the mix, but like 38%. But I just like it like this, you know. I don't like, I mean, it depends again on the track. If you just put it, if you want to have it more intimate and very close, then of course you put less reverb or a smaller hall. And actually, I think it, you know, you could fool around and just try all different kinds of reverbs, and I think people are too eager to find out what is the optimal holy grail setting. I mean, I just use one reverb at the very end, and that's it, because I think the depth and the large character comes from layering different libraries recorded in different rooms. That's what I also forgot to mention. If you got like Soaring Strings, they're really very nicely recorded. I mean, it's just an awesome library, but it's just one room, and it's just one depth. Disregarding if you have different microphones, it's always just this one room. And I just like to have mix different rooms together because they are adding like a little bit more dimensions, if you know what I mean. You know, just by stacking different rooms, you get like a much deeper or a much thicker sound. And that's enough for me in terms of room and reverberation. So basically, I just need a little bit of, you know, reverb tail at the end, of course, going on a little bit with a pre-delay going on and stuff, but not taking care of each library. And as I mentioned before, you can take it to extremes. I could, of course, set it for each library, or for each section, but it sounds cool to me like it is, you know. So I get the depth from all the libraries combined and use a general reverb tail at the end and all the mastering with all the analog stuff going on. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and check out and watch out for more to come. Okay, thanks for watching, and bye.